Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome back to Season 2 and Episode 35 of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up as we finish pulling together our final grades for Season 2 of the Rings of Power.
Now, I don't want to worry you, but my students at Signum tell me that I have a reputation for being a tough grader. Let's see how this goes. Okay, folks, it's time to pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sarah Brown, Shield Maiden of Rohan.
And I'm James Tauber, the Sage of the South. And we're both here with Alan Sisto, the Man of the West.
And tonight we're going to be reviewing the rest of the storylines from Season 2 of Amazon Prime Video's television series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power.
Now, before we get started, we want to offer a warm welcome for those of you joining us for the first time. Here at the Rings of Power Wrap-Up, we talk about the characters, the story, and the lore behind the Rings of Power.
Of course, if you are joining us for the first time, you're going to be a little confused. Maybe listen to at least to the previous episode before you listen to this.
Might be useful.
Now, we will be diving, or at least we hope to be diving, into some of Tolkien's biggest themes as well, things like mortality and free will. And, of course, we're going to do our fair share of speculating as to where these storylines will go in Season 3.
Indeed. And we hope you'll learn something new about Tolkien every time you listen. And we hope you'll have a few laughs in the process. We're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. Right, before we get into the episode discussion, do we have any corrections to make?
Oh, the only one that comes to mind was a casting thing that we missed out on last time.
How did we do this?
I know, I can't believe it. I mean, we talked about Narvi, but we didn't talk about the actor, Kevin Eldon, who just did a fantastic job bringing Narvi to life in the few minutes that we actually got to have him on screen.
Yeah, I could have had more Narvi.
I know.
Well, you know me. I love the Khazad-dûm stuff. I'm very into the dwarves, and I honestly think that a bit more Narvi for next season would be great. I'd be fine with that.
Yep, agreed.
I'm hoping we get him at the opening of the doors, like, you know, actually the installation of the doors. Please, please, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't think we have any corrections, clarifications, addendums, that kind of thing.
Nothing from me.
All right, then.
Okay, Alan, can you get us started?
Yeah, so, last time we covered several of the storylines. We've got 4 more to go. We're going to start. The first storyline we're going to talk about today is about the Lindon Elves. Now, they're going to be moving around a little bit. So this is about Elrond, not including the Eregion stuff, Galadriel, Gil-galad, and Círdan. And, of course, we talked about Círdan a little bit last time when we talked about casting, where did he go, man? But, yeah. Gil-galad definitely stepped up. I think this season it felt like he, was a more interesting character, more fully rounded.
Yeah. Yeah. He had more to do, more to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed him a lot more in this season.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. It wasn't necessarily Ben Walker last season, but I felt like generally the story around Gil-galad was weaker than some of the other areas in season 1. But season 2, I thought it was excellent.
Yeah. Now, what do we think about this storyline in general? Right, this is an interesting one because we've got the rings finally being used. Right, the series starts with, or the season, I should say, starts with the elves putting on the rings of power and the tree miraculously coming back to life, being healed of that black slime. That now we're starting to get some ideas about that black slime after the goo stage of Sauron.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a big focus of this storyline is the 3 and what powers they have and what questions get raised about whether they should be used or not.
I'm still not 100% on a couple of these things in Lindon. The one with we put on the rings and the tree magically goes woo and becomes golden again. But again, like we did this last year, right? Not last year, last season, in that we had criticisms of certain things. And then the following season, this season, they kind of made those okay. So this is the problem with me having a problem with you put on rings and suddenly the tree is all magically wonderful again, because they might tell us a little bit more about that in future seasons. I don't know. And the other thing I'm still not 100% sure about, what I feel about this, is Elrond's attitude to the Elven rings. I kind of see why the showrunners did it, because they're trying to build up drama about the rings and all that kind of thing.
Sets up a nice little tension. And
it does. And because, of course, they are moving around the making of the rings and all of that going on. But I'm not sure if I'm sold on Elrond's attitude to the Elven rings. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like in a way, if you go back to the lore, right, we know that Gil-galad and Elrond rejected Anatar, though he didn't have that name necessarily. They rejected it. They said, no, you can't come in. We don't buy who you say you are. Galadriel also, was suspect. And really, Celebrimbor was the only one that he had any success with. I feel like in a way, Elrond is sort of having to carry the weight of all of those who were in opposition and who didn't feel like, he was trustworthy. And it's being represented not so much in a lack of trust of Anatar, but in a fear about the rings themselves. And you're right. That does seem a little odd. I mean...
Yeah, I think they painted themselves in a corner. They needed to have some kind of conflict.
Yeah.
And so they had to have one of them that was not so sure about the elves. And it kind of... Elrond was the only person that it really could be. But it did seem uncharacteristic. It didn't quite seem to be what I would expect from Elrond. Although from a storytelling point of view, I can see why they did it. It was just maybe a little...
Yeah.
Unexpected for Elrond.
And they did keep making the elven rings ambivalent, didn't they?
They did.
Having like magical woo-woo sounds whenever you put a ring on. That's a technical term, by the way.
It is?
Magical
Okay, magical
sounds.
woo-woo sounds. All right.
Exactly. I'm sure all the best sound engineers will adopt that if they haven't already.
It's well known, right up there with the Wilhelm scream.
But yes, that too. They really have played up this idea of the rings being ambivalent and with the same kinds of effects with the elven rings being placed on a finger as we were used to seeing around the One Ring in the Jackson films, which of course makes them feel like they're not good. Mm-hmm. Again, I can get this because if you look at the lore, there is a sense in which the rings do have effects that aren't necessarily welcome on the bearer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that there are things there that they may be drawing on for sure. But I'm still, Again, I'm still not sure whether I like what they've done with it. And like James just said, I get why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll see a change. A couple thoughts there. I wonder if we're going to see a change in season 3 because Elrond has at the very end of season 2 put on a ring, used it to heal his friend. And so perhaps we're going to see that he comes around to seeing the good in them. The other thought is about what you mentioned with how they're sort of combining or concatenating the One Ring's abilities with these other rings. We saw, totally not related to what you just said, but when Mirdanya puts on a ring that's not the One, she becomes invisible, which is also not even a power of the One Ring when it comes to mortals. Or when it's only a power of the One Ring when it comes to mortals, and elves are not mortal, so she would not have been invisible even with the One. But they're seeming to amplify the powers of the rings. All of the rings are more powerful, more potent, more scary, like you said, more magical woo-woo sounds. They're all giving visions, which is different than we would normally have imagined them to be. So I think you're right. There is some kind of concern, might be too strong a word. There's a little uncertainty about where they're going to take this. What are they going to do with that? But yeah, I think we're going to see Elrond start to come around. I mean,
well, he kind of did at the end, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I want to come back to a question that I think we raised at the time, which is, do we think Elrond was right? Right. We sort of set up this tension, this conflict, but is it the case that Elrond had the right view of the rings all along, or is he the one that was wrong?
That's exactly right, because one of those two sides is going to be wrong. Either the rings are not corrupted by Sauron and can be used to benefit the elves, though they may have their own drawbacks, as we know, or he's right and they genuinely are corrupt. They ought not to be. I really hope they don't go that route. It needs to be Elrond that's wrong.
Elrond was incorrect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Elrond needs to be wrong on this.
Well, so an interesting aspect of that then is Círdan's response to it. So maybe we can move on to that, because that was really interesting to me. I felt like in episode 1 of this season, Círdan was absolutely perfect. He was everything. He was such an anticipated character for me, and it was just wonderful. It was everything I wanted it to be in episode 1. The casting was absolutely phenomenal. Everything about it, the words he spoke, just the way he handled Elrond coming to him.
Oh, it was wonderful. I agree.
And everything. And then you just get that bit on the boat, and we can talk about what we think went on there in the boat, where Círdan seems to change his mind.
Yeah.
And I would hate and this is just showing my complete Círdan bias here, but I would hate for him to be wrong about anything, right? I want Círdan to be the one that is right about absolutely everything.
Well, he's supposed to be one of the most wise.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And I want that to be carried through consistently, that you can always rely on Círdan. So when he changes his mind, that was kind of interesting, right? Because that means he maybe was not right at first, or maybe he was right initially and
should have trusted
came
his
under their
instincts,
influence. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm hoping, as you said, that it's a matter of him, sort of his wisdom. Initially he was listening to Elrond and taking Elrond's side because he, respects Elrond. And, then over time, as he began to think, I don't know, we've got this responsibility to Middle Earth. We have these things have great power. Maybe we can do this. I mean, I guess that sort of ambivalence or that sort of uncertainty does fit with the lore in the sense that, obviously the timing is different, right? The three were created after Sauron has left Eregion. He's gone back to Mordor. Celebrimbor crafts the three. And then as soon as Sauron puts on the one, we know there's trouble. He takes the three, goes up to Galadriel, and they decide, and she counsels them to spread them apart far out of Eregion where Sauron thinks they are, right? And that's why she gets one, and then Gil-galad gets two because he's all the way up in Lindon. Now, the interesting thing is they knew they should have destroyed them, but they couldn't find the will to do so.
Right.
And that's interesting because you could still hang on that if you're the showrunners and make this a deal where the rings actually have more negative effects than the books or the films even would have suggested. But yeah, they need to have a lot of good. They need to have that power of preservation. Certainly we've seen Narya's power of healing. I'm sorry, Nenya. My apologies. That would be Nenya, Galadriel's ring. So, we'll have to see where they go with that. I'm up in the air because there's just not enough data to decide.
Right.
That was the point I was making because we're criticizing all of these things from a very limited point of view, aren't we? We've only got what they've given us so far. So, in about 20 years when we've had season 5 and the three of us are wheeling our Zimmer frames into a studio so that we can bicker about what we thought of the previous 5 series. At that point, we'll be able to do an overview.
Oh, my goodness.
But you're right. Things have to be evaluated in the context of
exactly, and what we have is what we have.
Can I just, while we're on the subject of Círdan, I want to bring up the question of the shaving.
Yeah,
because as I said, episode 1 was perfect for me, and then episode 2 came along, and he's making fun of Rúmel, the drunkard.
I
thought that was a bit silly and rather unnecessary.
But the shaving really got me.
Yeah.
Until somebody suggested to me just a couple of days ago the theory that the reason he was shaving was that the rings somehow put in him this sort of care about aging and preservation, and that the shaving was somehow a symbol that he was not willing to age. Now, that seems to me a little too subtle.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like that's a bit of a stretch there on.
But I don't know why else. I can't.
I think it's only because they're trying to draw attention to the beard. I mean, I feel like they showed us the beard in episode 1, but unless you're a lore guy, you might not even be paying attention to the fact that
was perfect
because so many people have beards.
The way it was.
I know it was perfect the way it was. And then let's show him shaving because he's the only elf that needs to shave.
Yeah,
and
I didn't like that.
So we need to show it. I thought it was
the magical seashell. I'm not sure he knows how to use the 3 seashells. Do you?
Oh my goodness, that's just. He needs to get
sounds
one of those
like I'm complaining.
Fancy Gillette ones with the 5 shell edges.
The 5 shell, yes, exactly.
Then
the best
it's
a man
nice
can get.
smooth.
Yeah, I was going to say Gillette, the best an elf can get. But I was going to say, I sound like I'm complaining, but it's only because everything else about Círdan was so perfect.
Exactly, that really stood out along with the Rúmel thing. Yeah.
No, actually, I think we can be complaining about it. It doesn't make sense at the moment.
It doesn't.
So, I mean, but if by the end of season 5 it suddenly makes sense as to why Círdan shaved his beard off at the start of season 2, then I will apologize at that point. But right now, I am actually complaining.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because here's the thing. I don't know about you, James, and sorry, this doesn't apply to you unless you have a skill that I'm unaware of. But James, if it took me 5,000 years to grow a beard, I'm not going to shave it.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? I don't want to have to wait another 5,000 years for it to come back.
Plus, I think he looked better with the beard.
He really did look better with
He
the beard.
seriously looked regal and
Yeah.
he looked like flippin' Círdan is what he looked like.
did.
So, yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's talk some more about the storyline involving these elves. So we've talked a lot about the rings, and of course that makes sense. That's the most important element in this storyline. But let's talk also about the sort of internal politics that we had with the idea of sending Galadriel out as subordinate to Elrond.
Yes.
And going out with that traveling party, and then we'll talk about the traveling as well. What was Gil-galad up to on that?
That was another thing that kind of itched at me a little bit.
Yeah. Commander of the Northern Armies, and now she's just a lieutenant. Yeah.
Right, because a lot of this is based on her being on the naughty step for quite a long time, right? Yeah. She's irritated Gil-galad on quite a few occasions, so she's being punished for her behavior. Again, not sure how I feel about that.
Especially since Elrond was the one who absolutely, utterly rejected to follow, refused to follow the order. I mean, Elrond's the one who should be in the naughty corner.
So he throws himself off a cliff rather than obey his high king. Yeah. Galadriel, who has been proved to be right on multitudes of occasions, she's still on the naughty step.
Yeah.
No, not overly keen on that.
Also a fellow ring bearer at this point. I mean,
yes.
Gil-galad's got to have a little bit of a clue as to the power of the rings. And he knows because he has one. So he's got to know that it's doing things for her too, like the visions, because they've talked about that. They've literally shared the visions that they each got from it. So why in the world does he make her subordinate to Elrond? I don't know. It's some sort of...
It's all to do with creating more tension, isn't it? It's creating dramatic tension. That's what the purpose is.
Yeah.
Because if you have all of these 4 highly powerful elves, Elrond, Galadriel, Gil-galad, and Círdan, all on the same page, all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where's your tension? Yeah. Exactly. So there has to be something there. Although I might have preferred Gil-galad to be a little more irritated at Elrond, because Elrond flatly refused to obey his high king.
Well, and Gil-galad's very good at being annoyed, if you've noticed. He's
oh, yes.
He sort of looks perpetually annoyed.
He does.
I will say, I think it also...
Not as much as Tom Bombadil, but we'll come to that.
No, that's true. We won't get to him till the end.
Stop bringing up Rune. You know what it makes him do. Come
on,
I know,
James. Man. What do you... I just... The thing with Gil-galad doing that, it initially it felt like this was a thing about Gil-galad and Galadriel or Gil-galad and Elrond. But what... Sorry, you pointed out about it developing tension. It specifically builds tension in the Elrond-Galadriel relationship. Yeah. And I feel like that's really the driving factor there, because they want to set up that tension, the friendship, the dedication, right? Because we'll end up seeing things like she gives him the ring because she wants him to save the ring rather than her. Do whatever it takes, kill me if you have to. All leading up to the kiss, really, in many ways, which...
We don't need to talk
Sorry,
about it.
If
we don't talk about the kiss, we'll have more time to talk about Rune.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That was episode 35 of the Rings of Power Wrap-Up. We'll see you next time. We will talk about the kiss, and we'll talk about that kiss here in this storyline thread. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit briefly about the journey that those elves were making from Lindon to Eregion, and that included the stop by that massive chasm.
Which should not have been there.
Which should not have been there, because that's the Brandywine very near where the bridge is into Hobbiton.
It looked fantastic. Geographically inappropriate, but it looked good. So I'm okay with that, to be honest, whatever.
Yeah, because I think we have to remember something, right? We have to remember that the showrunners are writing a show that is also aimed at people who don't know, like James does, off by heart the geography of Eregion.
Yeah. Though it would have helped if they just didn't show us the map, right?
Yes.
I mean, they showed us a map overlay and zoomed in on where this was.
The problem was they equated it. They equated it with the Brandywine. Yeah.
Like, show me some other place, claim this is another river, go right ahead, and I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, but there are so many people, though, watching this who don't have that really in-depth knowledge of the lore and the maps, the geography, all of these sorts of things. And I can see that this is something that the showrunners would think, well, this looks like a great scene, right?
Yeah,
You've got the elves looking down into this chasm, and it's creating more difficulties for them. And so it's a great shot. So I can understand again why they've done it. For those of us who are old and grumpy and do know that really there should not be a chasm the size of the Grand Canyon where the Brandywine ought to be, then I think, we're allowed to go in a very British way and huff a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to balance out here. There are plenty of things that the three of us are going to complain about, but that thousands of people out there won't complain about because for them it's just about the fact that this is a great shot and it fits in the story that they are being told. It
does. You could certainly argue, coming back to the Shippey test, that this is part of a change that's necessary due to the change in medium. In this case, they're not actually adapting a real story. There's no element here that said that these people were making this trip. But if you are going to do that, you need to do it in a visual way.
Right, because it's by definition a visual medium.
Exactly. And if you're going to show that they have no choice but to go through the Barrow Downs, then you have to show some reason why they can't cross here.
Mm.
And
again, it's also putting in that tension.
Yeah.
We need the peril. We need to have that jacked up on a regular basis because it's part of what keeps people watching, right?
Please, can I have a little more peril?
So let's talk about the Barrow Downs.
Yeah, I was going to say, moving right on in. The Barrow Wights, the Barrow Downs, perfectly creepy.
Yes.
I remember loving the linguistic stuff about the Turin-Gorthad instead of Tirin-Gorthad, and how I was like, apparently I pronounce it as a Gondorian. That was really fun. Yeah, let's talk. What do we think about that? What are our general...
Again, for three grumpy old folk like us, I had complaints about the fact that the Barrow Wights were there at this point in history. Yeah. But again, in many ways, does that really, really matter in this story that's being told? They were super creepy. Mm-hmm. They were horrifying. They were very effective visually. I thought the scene itself was pretty well done. And of course, you did have a really unpleasant death for one of the elves.
Oh, the sound. The sound design on that was so good and so bad. Yeah, the crunching.
His name was Dymore, so I mean, it was.
Well, yeah, and he did.
You knew what was, and he
His
did.
last name was Violently. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think the captions just said squelching sound or something like that.
The sound design. The sound design was.
It was the absolute opposite of the magical woo-woo sounds.
Yes,
exactly.
Squelch and crunch.
Terrifying for sure. It was interesting that Elrond was the one who solved the problem there, because he knew the lore.
And he knew his lore.
Fits with who Elrond is.
That
giving
worked.
us a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Sarah, in the sense that as a lore guy, it bugs me that they're there, because here we are in the Second Age. They shouldn't even be there. The only people that were buried there at this point would have been the Edain from the First Age. During the journey to the west.
The Barrows being there is not a problem.
The Barrows being there are perfectly fine.
Correct.
They're being inhabited by
the evil spirits animating the Wights. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that wouldn't have happened until after the rise of Angmar and the Witch King sending in the spirits from Rhudaur and Cardolan. So, yeah, it bugged me a little bit. But like you said, it's telling this story, right? And it does give us...
And also it is giving us something that Peter Jackson never did.
That is true. That's another thing that, Tom Bombadil. I mean, kudos to them for trying, because I think about that a lot when I think about Jackson's films, because he was a horror director and would have done a tremendous job giving us the Barrows and the creepy crawling hand and the chanting and the sword across. Oh my! I mean, it would have been so good.
Heart and hand and moan.
Yes, and it was nice. They gave those lines totally inappropriately to Gollum later on. I think over the window in the west. So at least we got some of the dialogue. But yeah, he would have done that in a terrifyingly disturbing way. So it was nice to see it here. I was like, okay, you got the guts to take on the Barrows. I'm all right. Let's go with that.
It was actually enjoyable. And also, they did have to make the elves' journey somewhat perilous.
Yes, they
it
did.
couldn't look like a day out for a picnic. It needed to have peril in it, and this was a fun way to do that.
And to be honest, that's a very Tolkien thing to do, right? To have a journey that has just sort of these episodic perils along the way. That's exactly what The Hobbit is the whole way through, essentially, at least until you get to
danger and then rest.
And then
the next chapter is going to bring another creature that they have to deal with, and
So let's see. Was there anything else in this storyline that we want to talk through? I mean, obviously we get the healing moment where Comnir gets shot and Galadriel, like surprising herself even, is able to heal him.
Yep.
And that's, of course, foreshadowing the way in which they use the ring to heal Galadriel at the end of the season. So they set this up to tell us that the rings will do that.
Mm-hmm. And that's, of course, the same moment where she gives the ring to Elrond to go take on, the army. I have to say, I did like that scene. I know it wasn't realistic in the archery sense, when she's doing some of the crazy things.
But it was fun.
It was fun to watch,
fantastic cinema, right? I really enjoyed it. Great music, great visuals.
And I much prefer that kind of athletic kind of I'm trying to think of the right word for it. But, we see a lot from Arondir doing that as well. I much prefer that to the surfboarding down a shield kind of thing.
Surfboarding down or climbing up a set of falling stones, physics defying, as opposed to, okay, that's conceivable
sort of
if somebody had a lot of skill and talent.
We want to see some slightly superhuman physicality from elves. That's completely appropriate.
You think about it, they've been around for hundreds or even thousands of years. They're going to have developed skill sets. They're going to have, learned how to use their body in a way that men just aren't going to be able to.
Yeah, but I really do think that anybody who is a fan of the Jackson films and thinks that skateboarding elves who can also climb up falling rocks and can slide down the trunk of an oliphant.
Thank you. That was slide down.
If that
which
is
I loved
all
at the time, by the way.
I did love that. It was a lot of fun. It was silly, but it was fun.
If you're accepting that, exactly. You should have no problem.
You cannot be complaining about the athleticism we see from Arondir or from Galadriel because it's no different.
100%, Sarah. Absolutely agree, because and I think we heard a lot about that last season. They didn't want to, but it was all, if you ask me, it was all keyed in on warrior Galadriel and some people's resistance to the idea of a female elf being able to do this.
I was going to say, a lot of that came from a place of misogyny.
Exactly. So, if you are okay with Legolas doing these crazy things, then you got to be okay with Galadriel, leaping off the sword to kill the snow troll in season 1 or doing this incredible combat here. At the end of that combat, though, was a moment that I want to bring up because it connects back to the kiss that we're going to then talk about.
Exactly.
And that's the moment with Adar when he greets her. Oh, talk about that, James. And then we'll tie that into the kiss before we move on to another storyline.
Yeah. So, of course, the words that he says to her, which I just got chills when he said it,
They're multiplying.
He gives... Mm-hmm. We haven't had a Grease reference yet. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
I was like, did she know that was a Grease reference, or was that just really subtle? And sure enough, you did.
No, it was completely intentional.
I should have known.
No, so Adar gives the elvish greeting that Frodo gives in the Woody End to Gildor and Glorian.
Say it for us, James. Give us some Quenya.
Well, so what's interesting about it is that the way that it's normally pronounced and the way that Frodo pronounces it is Ella Silla Lumen Nomenti Elvo, with the second word being Silla. But Adar says it Thilla, with a th instead of a s, which I did not catch at the time. And I had a conversation with Corey Olsen about this on Rings and Realms. When I thought about it, I thought maybe he just mispronounced it because he had a burnt tongue or something like that. It was a lisp. But what it almost certainly is a reference to the fact that historically, in earlier forms of Quenya, it would have been pronounced th.
Yeah, with the th instead of the s.
And there's this whole thing. Tolkien wrote this essay called The Shibboleth of Feanor that talked about how Feanor sort of politicized that pronunciation.
Yes, he did.
Because his mother's name had the th sound in it. And so he kind of said, if you pronounce the th as a s, then you're insulting my mother and me and my whole family and so on. So it became this big thing.
He really did need to go touch grass, didn't he?
Seriously, man. That guy.
And so... th is the more traditional pronunciation, s is the more modern pronunciation, but there's also this political element as well that the th is considered Feanorian. And I don't think that Adar was being Feanorian. I just think I think they
Old.
did that to indicate the age.
Yeah. I think so too, because we get a lot of other references that suggest that, like, when he talks to Elrond about how, he has the beauty of his Maya foremother.
Yeah, his foremother.
Which is, that's going back in time a long way.
Yeah.
But isn't that a glorious little nugget of language knowledge
really
there
is.
for the real language nerds?
Yeah.
Because, 90% of the people who are watching that would not have caught that it was said with the th sound instead of the s sound, and that's significant.
What I love about it is it's multi-layered, right? So on the one hand, the people that don't know anything about that greeting are kind of like, oh, cool, we get another bit of Elvish.
Pretty more Elvish, right?
The book readers, Lord of the Rings book readers, might twig to the fact, oh, that's the greeting that Frodo used.
Yeah.
And then there's yet another layer of, oh, but he pronounced it differently. Mm-hmm. It was really well done.
And he calls her by not the name Galadriel, but
by the Quenya form of it.
By the Quenya form, which also suggests, again, more of this ancientry to it.
Exactly.
Well, let's tie that in then to the kiss. James, tell me how you read the moment, especially because it's there in front of Adar. Adar's a part of this. Adar's as much a player in this kiss as Elrond and Galadriel in many ways, right? I mean, he's the one, and it's not just because he's captured her, but it's the way he's threatening to kill her, the way he's demanding the ring. It's all of these things is sort of setting up the necessity of this moment.
Right. And we talked about this when we talked about the episode, that it was a little strange to me, the kind of ultimatum that was given to Elrond.
It was.
and Elrond's response, and it didn't make sense to me. I still haven't quite worked out what that was about. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the kiss as well, we said at the time that I think one of the problems was that Bear McCreary didn't get the memo about what the kiss was about. Because if you do watch that scene without the music, it reads very differently.
It does.
But all the cues from the music were that this was this romantic moment. It's this swelling music. Galadriel's theme all of a sudden plays passionately while the kiss is taking place. And I'm like, no.
No. Now, I haven't quite gotten over the kiss, but I do fully understand the reason why they did it. I mean, again, setting aside what you said, James, with the music, it's clearly just a ploy to get her the thing. It's not a romantic kiss. Okay,
right.
Fine. Does that make it any less annoying when it happened?
No, not to me.
Thank you. Yeah,
but I think we just need to move on. I know.
You're right.
The problem is, right, that it generated the chat about all the wrong things about that particular episode, right? Where we should have been looking at all of the other things that were going on. All anybody was talking about was the kiss.
Yeah. And that is a sort of strategic error on the part of the show. Like, why do this thing that is going to inflame everybody? I mean, literally, the show was trolling us at that point. It felt like this is an intentional attempt to generate a bunch of resentment from people. Now, I would move past the resentment part pretty quickly. It was just surprise, and then, clearly this is all they're doing. But it did feel manipulative in a way, and I didn't really like that. But whatever. Like you said, James, we just have to get over it and move on. Is there anything else that happened in this storyline? I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a lot, obviously. We can't cover 8 episodes of a storyline in 30 minutes.
Right. And we already have talked about the individual episode details. It's really bringing things together across the whole storyline.
Then where do we think, last question before we break then from this, where do we think this storyline is going to go? Where do we think these characters are going to go next season? Galadriel will have been healed a little bit. Elrond clearly founding Imladris. It looks like they have chosen the sword rather than the shield, so they're going to go out and try to find Sauron and attack him.
Unless Sauron is coming out to find them as well.
With Celebrimbor's body hanging on the banner, I hope, but probably not. Will Charles Edwards get credit for that, by the way, on season 3, episode 1, if we see his body hanging from a banner?
Depends on his contract. Maybe written into the contract.
I mean, he won't have any lines, that's for sure.
Will we see Círdan again? I certainly hope so.
I sure hope so.
Oh, I hope so.
Don't bring that guy on for 2 episodes and never show up again.
I mean, you get this wonderful closing scene at the season where you only have 2 of the rings because Círdan's not there. They could have brought him on, surely. But anyway.
Definitely found a way to get him there.
So I do hope we see him again, but I don't know where his story would go, for example.
Yeah. I'm hoping in a way that they do go back to more of what the actual story would be. So in this case, you would imagine that Gil-galad at least would go over to Lindon.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much choosing the shield, but it would at least be going back to maybe prepare, if you want to call it that. But he's in Lindon when Sauron attacks. Sauron also attacks Rivendell. And so I want to see those forces split and having to face off against Sauron from multiple fronts. The Galadriel thing is the absolute, what's the word? It's a wild card here, because in the text, in the actual books, of course, she's already got... She's married.
Lorien, yeah. And over in
and she's
Lorien.
Over in Lorien. And it's a whole different ballgame. So I don't know what they're going to do with her. Yeah. But I do think that we're going to see what we talked about at the beginning of this with the rings, is that Elrond's going to sort of come onto the same page as Galadriel and Gil-galad, and there'll be some other tension instead. I don't know what it'll be. Maybe it'll be how to take on Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think Galadriel is ready to found Lothlorien, because she
still
needs
to dumbfound her husband.
Well, yeah, there is that. She needs to go fishing for the silver clam before she can go sort out a forest.
Maybe Círdan was shaving with the...
Oh, my goodness.
Ouch.
That's brutal. I love it, though. All right. Well, we've got three more storylines to come back to. We'll get to at least a couple of them after the break.
We're about to get back into our discussion of Season 2 of The Rings of Power. But we want to remind you that when you finish listening to us, the talk continues all night long at the Rings of Power wrap-up.
We have an amazing community of listeners, and they really do keep the conversation going, from the Rings of Power group on Facebook, our Twitter feed, our Reddit community, and more.
Now, on Facebook, just look for Rings Wrap Up. Be sure to follow the page so that you get all of our posts and episode drops. But please join the group, and you're going to get into some great discussions about the TV show as well as on our own individual episodes.
If you're on Reddit, look us up at r/ringswrapup, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we're at ringswrapup.
And if you enjoy the show, please help us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and recommend us to your friends.
That's right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into Adar and the Orcs, also known as Benny and the Jets. But we're going to... Now I'm thinking entirely differently. I'm thinking of Glug singing, when you're a jet, you're a jet. I'll play from your...
Thank you for that. I can never unsee.
First baby orc to your last dying, well, Sauron stab, I suppose. All right. Adar and the Orcs. Adar again. I know we really praised Sam Hazeltine last episode as stepping into some very big shoes, and he did do a phenomenal job. And we just talked about one of the best moments in Adar's line over the season, which was that confrontation with Galadriel, where he speaks in Quenya and, gives her that famous Quenya greeting. But let's talk a little bit more, because Adar was one of my favorite characters too. Sarah, I think you said that last week.
Yes.
That he just such a fascinating character who's gone now. So in memoriam of Adar, who was very old, one of the original orcs, completely twisted elf, yes. But let's talk about this guy and all that he accomplished for the orcs. What was he trying to genuinely do? Because he did seem to love them. He did seem to want to have good things, but he got caught up in that desire to catch Sauron at whatever the cost.
And that was the problem, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we saw little hints of that ambivalence back in season 1. The fact that he presented himself as the father to the orcs, but there was that moment where he grabbed one of the orcs' arms and held the arm out to the sunshine.
Yeah.
Remember? And burned him. And I mean, does a proud papa really do something like that? So we see that actually carrying through into season 2, but on a much greater level. In that, again, he's still presenting himself as someone who loves the orcs as his children, and I do think he does, but he's still willing to throw them in front of the cannons whenever he needs to, because he's a bit the ends justify the means on this one. He's read his Machiavelli, And he knows what he has to do. No matter how much he loves the orcs, he's still prepared to do that. And he justifies it, doesn't he? By saying he would prefer to do that than see them be slaves to Sauron.
Exactly. That is his ends justifies the means right there.
Yes.
I love you. I love you so much that I can't let you become slaves.
Yeah.
What it means is I would rather you die than become slaves of Sauron.
I mean, that's not great. That's flying a few red flags, really, isn't it? I would be much happier if you died than if you became a slave to Sauron. But what about them having the choice on what happens here? And what about actually not just casting away the lives of the orcs in a seemingly uncaring fashion, which of course is what makes Glug so angry with him in the end.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd wanted to give a shout out to, just the way they used Glug's reaction to various choices that Adar made in a really, I think, brilliant way of building up that tension between
it was slowly done.
Adar and all those moments. And again, just incredible acting through the prosthetics of the look on Glug's face, the eyes, when he's just sort of disappointed, sad, confused, angry at the things that Adar is doing. And it keeps happening time and time again. Adar makes decisions and you see Glug's eyes just not knowing what to do.
He's so disappointed.
Of course it comes to
he's crestfallen. Like, Dad, do you understand? You're going to be killing a lot of us. I thought you said you loved us. I mean, I understand his doubt, I mean, it doesn't look like love from where I stand.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, like you said, it does seem sincere. I mean, that moment that we see where he's at the funeral pyres of several of them after the battle, that looked really deeply genuine. And
I think he does feel genuine sadness when they die, but he's still prepared to throw them in front of him and have them killed in various unpleasant manners just because he has an agenda.
Yeah.
And that isn't love. That's a very twisted form of love, if that's love at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that it was a very clever setup because, of course, then when we finally get the payoff, we get all of the irony that Glug turns to Sauron.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. But thinking of this in Glug's terms, right? The pain and disappointment when you're let down by your parental figure. And not just let down, but they show you that they may love you, but that love has strings. That love is not unconditional. That love is twisted because the person who's saying that they love you is still prepared to do things that will put you in harm's way. That feeling of being let down by that person that you have looked to for guidance, the pain from that must be appalling. And that's why when you see, this is what I think anyway, that's why when you see the orcs turn on Adar later, the way in which they kill him is just so vicious. There's fury in those stabs.
Yeah, there is.
It's not we're going to kill you.
Even those actions were remember, Anatar tells Celebrimbor what it's like when orcs are angry in the heat of
frenzy.
battle.
And he would remember that as you go back to episode 1, where the failed TED Talk led to the attempted assassination of Sauron.
But then we see it again with Adar at the very end.
We really do. I will say this, just kind of in general, I want to comment on the fact that I'm really very pleased to see that the show has decided to make the orcs something other than a faceless, nameless horde.
100%. That's one of the things that I really have enjoyed about the last 2 seasons, is that they've done so much more with the orcs than Peter Jackson ever did. That kind of racial essentializing that we get from the Jackson films isn't really there.
No.
Because they're given personalities, they're given actual roles to play, and there's an interplay agency, between them. Yeah. Right, exactly. This is so much more interesting.
It is.
So much better done than Jackson did. So, I'm really 100% behind the way in which they've presented it. And I know there was a lot of complaining online about Glug having a family. Where do you think more orcs come from? They really are not birthed out of sacks in the mud.
No,
that
was
how it works.
Total fiction, yeah. I mean, I can see part of the concern because I know that we're never told what the family structure is like of orcs, but we are told that they reproduce like the children of Ilúvatar,
right.
presumably with, maybe a little alcohol, maybe a little candlelight,
Barry White on the radio,
White, exactly, better than a Barrow White on the radio. And so, it's going to be that way. But is it going to be with a nuclear family, or is it going to be we've got these breeding centers and all the female orcs are just kept there continually gestating? And I mean, that's awful, and I don't want to see that, right?
No.
I don't even want to know if that's the way it is. But I rather feel like that's certainly the way it is, I think, in the Third Age. I get the feeling that Sauron, because he's very much into this sort of eugenics, right? I mean, you see he's breeding different types of orcs. You've got these scout orcs that are short and small and quick, and then you've got the big, stronger orcs, and you've got some orcs that can handle the sunlight. And he's doing all of this. I don't think he's using nuclear families as the way to generate orcs. So I can get why there's a little bit of frustration. But we don't know what it was like at this point. Because this is earlier in their history.
There can be development in the history, can't there? And this actually would make great sense if we're using the way in which they're telling this story. This makes great sense that Sauron would twist what is already there.
Exactly, because Sauron, as can be very clearly seen when he dispatches Glug immediately without even listening to him finish his sentence, he really does see them as pure cannon fodder. Basically, you see what Glug thought Adar was seeing them as, you now see what they really are to Sauron. And to see them perhaps changed from a culture that valued, camaraderie and brotherhood and maybe even a nuclear family into what we see in the Third Age. That's, that sort of tragic trajectory I could see being a thing.
Right, because by the time we get to Frodo and Sam encountering orcs and Merry and Pippin encountering orcs, this is a very long time later. Correct. Sauron has had plenty of time to get his breeding program on the go and mold the orcs into what he wants them to be.
Yeah.
And of course, being Sauron, he would want ultimate control over all of that.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. So he wouldn't leave anything to chance. He wouldn't want there to be things like, friendships and families and children being produced in communities and things like that, because that's not what he wants. He wants absolute control over what's going on. So I actually like that idea. Yeah. I like the idea of development.
Can see that happening, yeah.
And it just occurs to me that now that Adar is gone, we are moving much more towards the relationship between orcs and Sauron that we are familiar with from
by the end of the show.
This was one of the things that was sort of a question for me, and there's still some questions I have about what was the whole deal with the creation of Mordor. How does Sauron fit in the creation of Mordor as opposed to Adar? Right. But some of those questions about what's the deal going to be with Adar and Sauron are now taken off the table.
They really are.
Right? Yeah. So we're kind of in more familiar territory moving forward.
Exactly. I mean, in a way, we're at the beginning of that thread, and now we're going to see over the next 3 seasons the orcs turn into that nameless, faceless horde.
Exactly that. Yes. But I, for one, I'm going to miss Adar. I've really enjoyed that character. I've really enjoyed the fact that he is ambivalent, that there are things about him that seem to be quite good. Yeah. But things about him that are definitely not good. This is rather Tolkienian, actually.
Yes, exactly. I think the people who see Tolkien as being black and white really haven't read Tolkien very much.
No, I don't think they've read the books we've read, that's for sure, because there is just no way that Tolkien has that binary way of thinking about good and evil.
No.
There's very much the fuzzy boundary between the two. People who seem to be on the side of good can do terrible things.
Oh, yeah. Denethor.
Hello, Boromir.
Boromir. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And in this case, we're seeing an example the other way around. Somebody who's a bad character who sometimes does some good or noble or honorable things, and yet who at the end of the day is corrupt, is twisted, and pays for it. It was sort of sad. I was thinking about this the other day. Glug's end being so almost meaningless. It reminded me a little about Merdania and how her life's just like, oops, well, she's gone now. Never mind.
Makes it more poignant, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? The loss hits a little harder. Like, what did you just, what? Yeah. Why? I mean, I'm not worried about Robert Strange. He's going to get a chance to play many, many orcs, I'm sure, in the upcoming seasons. He was phenomenal as Glug and his other characters, too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
He played more than one.
Yeah, really good stuff. really, so I want to include the Siege of Eregion in this storyline because, of course, that was what Adar and the orcs were building up to. The siege itself, I know we talked about it a little bit during the episodes, primarily from the elf side, and we talked about what looked to be really decrepit armor and a very substandard military. What about the orcs force? What about the attacking force? What is Adar thinking about as he comes in as a strategic commander? What do you think his take is on how we're going to take Eregion? I mean, what do you I'm going to throw these guys down that bridge? No, they never even try crossing the bridge.
And we discussed this at the time, that the bridge would have been a choke point. It would have been a really bad place to attack. And so we do get that slightly annoying, targeting the mountains and causing the dam, and all of a sudden...
They would have been better off just building a damn dam.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
And certainly no worse than some of the things Peter Jackson did.
That's true.
Oh, yes.
But
yeah, that's fair. Sometimes I get the feeling, though, that there were a bunch of VFX artists that needed to get paid, and they were like, we're paying these guys. We better have them do something. I know. Let's shoot the mountain and turn it into rubble. I know. Let's have a creature come out of the ground. Okay, that's the next storyline. We'll talk about that later. But I do sort of get that feeling like we've got these guys on payroll and they're not doing a lot right now. Can we give them some big project?
I don't actually think that's how it works. But
I know. I know it's not, but it felt weird. Like, why are we doing this? Oh, so we can show some cool effects of the mountain coming down.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I want to come back to just how phenomenal some of the practical side of this was. I mean, they built a huge set.
Gigantic set, yeah.
So much of the stuff, as I've said before, was done with lighting.
Practical effects,
not in post. And that just would have been an unbelievable undertaking, filming that siege scene. Mm-hmm. And also, I've got to give a shout out, to that amazing one shot that we see, the long tracking shot.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that was really good.
I mean, I think there's probably a cut in there. If you look closely enough, there are ways of actually cutting and not making it noticeable. But
that was pretty impressive.
But it was still just really impressive cinema as well.
It was almost like 80 seconds long, wasn't it? That shot.
It was incredible and
really breathtaking.
Really interesting as well. The way that it's all traveling left to right as the orcs come through, and you get the parkour elf coming down, sliding down, and then immediately getting killed by the orcs, and then immediately Galadriel comes through the door, and the motion switches from right to left. Yeah, and so there's this sort of wonderful, it's the tides are going one way and then they're going the other way, and it was just a beautiful piece of filmmaking.
It was really, really good.
That I did want to call out, but got to remember, this is television. This is incredible that we've seen this level of battle scene in a TV show.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't the 3 episodes that we maybe were told, it was still probably the most epic battle sequence that we've seen in television.
Yeah.
Most TV shows do not have the kind of budget that Rings of Power
and time as well.
And yet even that budget and those times are not what you get when you get to a film, right? I mean, that's if you were filming this for a theatrical release, you're going to have even more budget. You're going to have even more time.
Yeah.
And it can, that's why I feel like it's not really fair to say, oh, this doesn't look quite as good as this Jackson film thing that was shot 20 years ago. It's not a television show. This is. It's a different medium. They're also challenged in a way that film is not, in the sense that you have to have, even though you have a narrative arc that covers 8 episodes, you also have to have 8 individual episodes that stand on their own, that have, a build up and a resolution of sorts. Yes, you're going to have threads that leave, that are hanging till the next one. And sometimes you're going to have threads that aren't even touched in a particular episode.
Yep.
But the show itself, that 1 hour, has to have a shape to it. And that is a real complicating factor in comparison to film. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right to call that out, because it was spectacular. Even if I have my issues with some of the writing around it, or some of the things that they chose to do, I certainly can't gripe about the fact that it looked like an epic battle.
Yep.
Yeah, it did. It was fun to watch.
It was. Except when I kept trying to say to the elves, no, don't do that. You've got a heavy cavalry. Stop.
Yes.
Don't go into the woods. Don't ride on your own. And don't get into a triangle wedge formation. Stay in a line. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whoever was their battle commander needs a slap.
I mean, look, most of our listeners will have played enough like Total War games on their PC in the days to know that you would keep your cavalry in a line formation. But anyway, we should get
Brett.
Yes, we should get Brett Devereaux. He would be a fantastic guest to talk about these sorts of things. In fact, I'll maybe reach out to him. Who knows what we'll do. Anything else under Adar and the Orcs? We haven't talked, we've mentioned the betrayal, but we haven't talked about the actual betrayal scene. Let's talk about the prelude to that, though, right? Because the scene with Glug betraying Adar doesn't start when Glug's wounded body is being dragged before him out in the woods. It starts after Celebrimbor's death, when the orcs come in and they say, "You're Sauron, aren't you?" And he's, "I've had many names, right? Yeah. Don't call me Sauron.
Don't call me Sauron." Yes.
Yeah. Please don't call me the Abhorred, because if you do, I'm going to have issues with you, and we won't get along very well.
That's what was so brilliant about that, because the next thing, of course, we see, as you said, is Glug being carried on the stretcher, injured, supposedly, and that's completely believable. You could totally imagine that Sauron would go, nope, not interested, and injured him. And that whole double reversal of Glug, I thought was really, really well done. It's going to be in contrast to a certain other character we're going to get to in the next segment. But in the case of Glug, it really worked well. It was completely believable that Sauron would not accept him. But then it turned out, no, he all along had actually switched sides.
Yeah, that was tough, because we thought that he might switch sides. We talked about how they were clearly building him up to lead some sort of rebellion. I think at the time we thought it was going to be an open revolt. Yeah. And so then when Sauron shows up, you're thinking, oh, this is it, Well,
we saw hints of that, because remember, though, they were those orcs that it's at Rondir encounters that are...
Yes, that's right.
Are actually mutant. They're actually,
I'm not dying for that guy. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And you think, okay, well, then as Glug's coming back, you're like, okay, well, it looks like he defied Sauron, right? He wouldn't hand over Adar. He wouldn't submit to Sauron's leadership. And now here's this wounded guy who's going to come back. And we're going to get a call back to whatever episode it was that we first saw Adar, when he, basically finished off, killed mercy killing.
Right.
And you thought, oh, he's going to have to do a mercy killing for Glug. I mean, my heart was already, just not looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then to have him actually flip was really unexpected. And yet it shouldn't have been unexpected. Right. I was kicking myself for being surprised by this.
Mm.
And then, as you already brought up, of course, the fact that Sauron then turns around and kills Glug after all that was just, I know it was so
Sauron.
It was so Sauron, exactly.
Yeah.
If you had any doubts about the kind of...
You are not going to be Adar Part 2, This is definitely a very different relationship now.
Yes.
And he's making that very, very clear. Basically, he knew that Glug was the only one who would have been able to get to Adar and take him down, and that doing so would really hurt Adar. I mean, just destroy him, even if it didn't kill him.
Yeah. To know that your children have turned on you. It's your children who are killing you, and they're doing it of their own free will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Except probably not. I mean, that's the other thing, as we've seen, Sauron's capable of manipulating people with a lot more will and power and individuality than Glug. Lord Celebrimbor comes to mind. Anything else in the line of Adar and the orcs? I thought there were some really great things in there, but we've touched on a lot.
Just one last thing I just want to mention, and that is the scene where Galadriel approaches Adar just before Adar is killed, actually. And Adar is wearing Nenya.
Yes. And he's healed.
And he stands, and his face is just healed. His body seems to be healed from the damage. I think it's actually really interesting that when he removes Nenya, he returns. I think that's an indication of just how long the injuries have been there, that you can't just pop the ring on and it's all gone and you're fine, that it would take far longer for that kind of healing to actually take, if you will. But it's a poignant moment for me. I think it was anyway, that, you see him as he was once. This is what he was once. Of course, that's the outside that looks all healed.
Yeah.
The inside is just as twisted and corrupted as it ever has been.
And you just reminded me as well that this is the moment where we think maybe we're going to find out what his name used to be.
Yes.
But we
Then
don't.
they don't tell us.
And they don't tell us, which I think was good.
Yeah, I think that was a good choice.
I think it was a good choice dramatically, but also very telling that he's like, no, it's not who I am now.
Right. It's not even relevant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of ties into what we've talked about before about names. I mean, we were talking about it in the context of The Stranger, but the idea that, a name that was given to you is less important than the name that you've earned. The name that you take upon yourself that defines who you are, what you do. And obviously the name of Adar, father, is so much more important to him than whatever name he was. And they could have only gone wrong if they'd given us an actual name.
Yes, I don't think there is a name. Yeah, you're right. Nothing would have been satisfying.
Yeah. No character in the
question.
Legendary, no elvish character could they have given us. Even somebody like Miglin, it still wouldn't have been a good fit.
No.
Right? I mean, for those who don't know, Miglin was like the worst of the First Age elves. He literally betrayed an entire
That's
kingdom.
saying something.
I mean, yeah, and that is saying something. I mean, because as much as I beat the Feanor Pinata, and his father, the criminal, who was,
the criminal rapist.
The rapist, yeah. I almost didn't even want to say that, but that's exactly what he was. Mm-hmm. But then, Miglin, a betrayer and an absolute just evil guy who was doing this all to try to get this one woman that he wanted, who was his first cousin, by the way.
And no red flags there.
So bad guy. Miglin is the only one I could think of who would have been like satisfactory, but he would have been wrong. I would have been like, you can't make this guy
wouldn't have
Miglin.
worked. Yeah.
No, timeline wouldn't have worked. You couldn't have made him. I know there were people who thought it might be one of Feanor's sons. That's not going to work.
No.
Yeah, there was just really nobody.
I mean, there was interesting things like the fact that he always had the gauntlet on his left
over the hand.
Yeah. Was that just misdirection?
Yeah, they just didn't explain it. I actually think that was quite clever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, as you say, Alan, if they'd given us a name, we'd have had something to complain about. As it is, he could have been any one of them or none.
That's correct. He can be whoever you want him to be.
I wonder if they originally intended for him to be someone and then decided in their wisdom and hats off.
And it would be wisdom if they did decide that. Yeah.
It said, let's not reveal it.
Yeah. We don't need to give him a name because what he's done is
Good
who
call.
he is. It was a good call. All right. Well, we'll touch on one more storyline here before our next break, and that's the storyline surrounding Pelargir. Now, this is sort of a catch-all for everything from the Southmen to the Ents, that one all too brief moment with the Ents, to most of Arondir's line, basically everything except for his stuff at the Siege of Eregion, and of course, mostly Isildur, and both his relationship with Theo and his relationship with Estrid, and that whole line. Of course, it also does give us a chance to revisit Kemen and punch his punchable face.
You've been looking forward to that.
Oh, I have been. That's fantastic. Yeah, highlight of my trip to the Rings and Realms things was punching Kemen. So
make sure to link to that.
Oh yeah, well definitely if it's even out. I mean, by this show's going to come out.
Oh no, this will come out
long
sooner,
before the face punching incident will come out. But for those who follow Rings and Realms as well, and if you don't, you should. There will be a moment where I think face transplanted into Elendil when he decks Kemen in the little chapel there, or the little shrine. So anyway, Pelargir, lots to talk about here.
Can I just say, have we talked at all about the Mordor scenes in this season? Like, we've got
right.
Waldreg, we've got Waldreg and the Halbrand.
Oh my goodness, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. I guess we should have included other than Adar and the Orcs, but let's just talk about it here, maybe as a segue as our transition.
Well, just because it kind of gets us from, obviously, Isildur is going to come from that region, so that's why it just occurred to me.
That's fair. I guess we should start with that then, because that's where, like you said, that's where Isildur comes from. So it's going to cover the incident with Baby Shelob. In fact, let's start there, because that's kind of where it starts, but then we'll go back and revisit Waldreg. Let's talk about Isildur and Shelob. Like the Barrow-wight scene, it was well executed, creepy, great sound design, a little bit of unnecessary fan service.
I was going to say,
and a little confusing on the maps.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally confusing the maps. It made zero sense that he was
where
there.
is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't needed. It didn't further the story. It didn't really tell us anything about Isildur's escape. It just was a challenge on the way out.
Right.
Yeah.
And sort of
again,
a
it was
nod.
just that kind of encounter, Hobbit-like encounter on the way.
And it's funny because I criticize that one because it was, an unnecessary fan service, but then I'll also criticize the silly centipede of certain death that jumps out of the swamp mud.
We'll get to that.
And that's not fan service, right?
Yeah.
That's not. That's who knows what that was.
Exactly. So I got to
Supper, I think.
It was supper, yeah, apparently.
I want there to be challenges. I just don't want them to be fan service. I also don't want them to be, just dumb as rocks. But
so we can move past that whole thing and the dead faces in the water and get to the meet cute.
Yeah,
between Isildur and
I did like the faces in the water, and I like that he took the boots and the sword. I thought that was actually a nice little touch. Sort of also hearkening forward to for those who watched the movies, they'll be thinking about Isildur's death in the water, being shot with orc arrows. Those of us who read the books know that Isildur died after he got out of the river, but that's okay. Yeah, the meet cute. The meet cute was cute, wasn't it?
I loved it. It was a moment of humor. I thought the comedic
timing was
of
really
that whole.
done. Yes.
You're supposed to leave you're supposed to leave it in when you get stabbed. I've never been stabbed before. I thought that was really, really well
cute.
done. It was well written. It was well acted.
Yeah.
But of course, Estrid is who I was referring to earlier. Mm-hmm. In contrast to Glug, where I felt there was just a little bit too much.
Too many double
whiplash
reversals
in terms of the whose side is she on? Is she with it just happened too many times.
It's like playing Uno and your entire hand is filled with reverses and skips.
Right.
I will take your word for that, as I have no idea what Uno is.
Oh my goodness. No, it's a very simple card game, but yeah, most of the folks will get it, but obviously
but
everybody
not Sarah apparently.
Yeah, it's probably just me.
No, I doubt that. But yeah, it really did, though, James. You're right. It was like this little whiplash. Like, oh, now I like her. No, now I don't. Oh, no, I like, no, but forget it. I'm just going to wait until this resolves because
exactly. It
there's
became
just
not
too much.
Worth the wondering.
Yeah, not worth the wondering. I love that. It was, it absolutely wasn't worth investing the emotion anymore.
Although, I mean, I think it had an interesting ending in the last episode, but the meet cute was great. I really,
it was well executed, and it still left me wondering whether she what really was going down there. Did she lead them to those guys, and was that why she, stabbed him in the first place, or was she really trying to kill him and just did a terrible job of it? I don't know, and we'll never know, and that's okay.
Because here's a tip: if you're really trying to kill someone with the knife, the leg is not always the one to go for.
No. I mean, if you're lucky and you strike the femoral artery, you're good to go. But
yeah, but you've got to get lucky with
you
that
really
one.
do. Pretty much,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, somewhere between the third and fourth rib, you'll get even luckier because you're going to hit a lung. And, that's going to have a much bigger effect, I would have thought.
I would imagine, yeah. Well, she did have limited reach as she was kind of looking at only his leg from underneath where she was hiding. But, yeah. It was a cute meet cute. That's true. I liked the character in a way. I just thought that they kept overplaying their hand on the flip side.
Yes. Yeah.
But I do like the conflict that character has to have, right? We've talked about this before in discussing the episode. These people from the Southlands who did have the mark of Adar, what other choice did they have?
Well,
right?
We saw that. We saw how brutal it was.
Yes.
you don't get, you're dead if you don't get the...
That guy literally hesitated for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was killed.
Absolutely. You can't even think twice. You accept this or you die. And I guess that brings us back to Waldrick, so we'll at least mention him real quick. Those of us who thought he might end up being like the really old man Ringwraith, nope. Not going to happen.
Puppy chow. Waldrick was puppy chow.
He was. And I love that they had Sauron using a werewolf to accomplish that. I mean, it's definitely a nod to him being the Lord of Werewolves, a fantastic reference to the old First Age Sauron.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, there's these little sort of Easter eggy nuggets in there for those of us who are steeped in the lore, and they're fun when we find them.
It's funny, though, because most of them are fun, and then every once in a while it just feels so forced. And I don't know that I can identify what makes it feel that way.
Yeah, which ones are going to work, and yeah.
Well, I think I know which one felt forced for me, and that was Tom Bombadil.
We'll come to that.
We'll come back to that after the next
break. We promise we'll come.
We will.
James and I keep dropping Rune into our conversation because we both love seeing Alan cringe as soon as we mention anything to do with Rune.
Yeah, that may be true. We keep talking about...
Okay, but before we get to that, let's talk about Bronwyn.
Oh, yes. How
do you think things would have worked out if Bronwyn had stayed alive?
I think she would have met her death sometime this season. I think she was doomed to die, if you want to put it that way, not just because she was a human.
Because you couldn't have Arondir and Bronwyn in a full relationship. It just...
Plus, it sets up Theo's
That's
anger.
The thing.
Anger.
I think she was always going to end up dying. Maybe she would have died under some other circumstances that would have made it even worse, right? But I do think she was going to die at some point in this season, even if the actress hadn't stepped down from the role.
Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out to Nazanin Boniadi for the fact that she's now doing great work that she has decided to step aside to do instead of her acting. So big shout out to her.
Huge respect. I had the privilege of meeting her at that lunch a couple of seasons ago, and she was just such an impressive person. I mean, I absolutely admire her for what she's done. And I'll miss her, though, because she was a good character. I think we've talked about this before. So many of these new characters that they just made out of whole cloth are actually the best characters in many ways, whether it was Arondir or whether it's Bronwyn or Disa or some of these others that they've just made up, and they are fantastic. But yeah, I think she was going to die, and specifically to build that tension between Theo and Arondir. And that's something to talk about here, because now...
Not just the conflict, but also the connection that's going to form between Isildur and Theo around their mothers.
The loss of their mothers.
Which is such an important part of this storyline, I think.
Yeah, it may, of course, lead to things happening later that Isildur thinks he can call upon Theo, and Theo's anger at what's going on. Yeah, well, we're just sort of looking forward.
I mean, it really sets him up as the king of the dead for sure. But it sets him up well, like not in a cheesy way or anything like that. It doesn't feel forced. It feels natural, and we're going to watch his tragic descent, right? We're going to watch him elevate and become a guy that Isildur can count on, who then betrays him in the end. And that is going to be such a dagger in the heart of Isildur, because that the connection is going to be strong. It's really going to be
I think so.
Something else.
Can I just break in for a second before we go any further? Just want to tell you that Rings and Realms Season 8 Part 1 has just dropped.
Oh, wow. Good. Okay. So that Part 1.
Still not the bits with us in it, though.
No. It's just Part 1.
Yeah.
Okay. My goodness. All right.
I just wanted to let you know, because I just got a notification.
Okay. That's good to know, folks. As we're recording this, by the way, it's the afternoon of Wednesday, the 30th of October. You'll probably hear this on Friday. But yeah, take a look at that. And then Part 2 will come out. And then eventually, probably like 5 or 6 weeks after we recorded those things, James, our segments will come out. That'll be a lot of fun.
Anyway, sorry for the interruption. Let's go back to
No, I'm glad you did. Our listeners need to have that information so they can go check that out. So, Isildur, oh man, he really is the central pivot point to all of these lines, right? All of the things running through Pelargir. He's the connection to Theo. He's the connection with Estrid. He's connected to Arondir. He's present when they encounter the Ents. And I want to talk a little bit about that moment.
Yep.
I wish we had more of them, but I imagine it was a very expensive thing CG wise to do, and we're probably not going to see them too many times. But those Ents were, to me at least, pretty impressive, and I loved that scene. Yeah, I loved seeing the sort of uncontrolled rage of Winterbloom. She was so angry. She was completely irrational. I mean, she pegs Arondir with a question that he can't possibly ever answer in a way to satisfy her, right? Which was something along the lines of, have you ever laid weapons?
Hast thou ever touched axe to wooded life?
Yeah, wow.
What I love about that is that the scene in which we saw him cut down a tree was just such an incredibly emotional scene. And at the time, it just seemed like that was this standalone, beautiful indication of the relationship that elves have with trees.
It felt just like that.
I don't think any of us would have imagined that it would have implications later on.
Right.
And so when she asked that question, it was, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
If only you'd been there. No, there's context you need to understand. It was, I thought that was a really, really nice setup and payoff.
I did too. And I think it's still not finished paying off. I really get the feeling that what we're going to see next season with the expansion of the Númenorian Empire into the region of Pelargir and Kemen's desire to knock down all the trees is going to lead to tension with the Ents and with Arondir. Arondir is going to end up being the foil to Kemen next season.
I really want to see Kemen being terrorized by an Ent.
Oh, I do too.
Please let me see that.
I'm just afraid he's going to be given a ring and become a wraith, and it's all, downhill from there.
It could be both.
He could be terrorized by an Ent first.
He can be terrorized by an Ent. Exactly.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm hoping, right? Let him be absolutely terrorized and on the verge of death when Sauron comes along and says, hey, by the way, would you like one of these? Yeah.
So you can get your own back on all those awful, awful trees.
Yeah. Okay, Ents. Coming back to the Ents, that really was a fantastic scene. I thought technically, I thought sound-wise, I love the voice acting. I love what it's going to build up for future stuff. And I want to tie it to Isildur in particular. I mean, we've been tying it to Arondir and going back to his moment in Mordor, and then maybe going forward to how he may be a foil to Kemen. I want to tie it to Isildur because there is a moment that we should see, probably not next season, but probably season 4 after Sauron has been returned to Númenor. I think he'll be captured at the end of next season.
Yep.
And I'm hoping, and I know they'll have to get licensing for it because it's not in the appendices, but man, that really sets up Isildur and getting a fruit off the white tree before Sauron destroys it.
Oh, please let them show that scene.
Give me that because, man, this is like the birthing of Isildur's admiration for and respect of trees as not just a resource.
Yeah, and I really think that if they've only got limited things that they can bargain for with the Tolkien estate, this is one I think should be near the top of their list because they've already established the white tree in Númenor as being important and symbolic.
Yes.
And that's good.
And they keep going back to it too. You see a lot of the shots of the tree.
And also we do know, even if you've only read the Jackson films and you haven't read the books, if you've only seen the Jackson films, you know that there's a white tree in Gondor. I think not to have the moment of Isildur, it's a moment of heroism.
It is. It's one of the greatest stories. Yeah.
So I honestly think that this is one that it would be well worth using some of their capital for to get the Tolkien estate to agree to it. It's such an important moment. Yeah. And we've predicted it's going to be season 4 for the sinking of Númenor. Yeah. I think that would work really well with the timelines, but they're going to have to set up the peril for the faithful, their preparations for leaving, the way in which they're going to have to gather themselves, and just that the capture of a fruit from the white tree would be such an important thing.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see how they do that, though, because I'm thinking back to the Akallabeth and to that story, and it's Elendil's father, Amandil, who is the motivating force behind all of that, right?
And we don't seem to have Amandil.
We won't have him.
I have a theory there I'm going to put out here for the first time. You're hearing it here for the first time, folks.
I'm buckling in.
I'm wondering if some of Elendil's father's role in the books will actually fall onto Anarion, his son.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm wondering if because we know Elendil's headed west.
Yeah, yeah.
And we know that his other son is there. I'm wondering if certain things are going to be done or have been done already by Anarion.
Ah, maybe.
Because I'm not even sure that Anarion, well, I mean, I know we think it's important that Anarion goes on to fight in the, establish the
to come and be the joint heir of Gondor with his brother, yeah.
It occurred to me, though, is that really, really important to the story that the showrunners want to tell?
That's a very good point. I mean, he dies at the Daggerlad, or he dies in the Siege of Barad-dûr, and so we don't really see him.
He gets a rock dropped on his head. It's a bit ignominious.
Yeah, I mean, he's the founder of Minas Tirith, but so you kind of need.
Apart from that,
but I don't know that that's important to the story. I don't know how important that is to the story. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to be on the lookout
Especially if they call it Minas Tirith and not Minas Anor. If they can't really call it Minas Anor if he isn't the one who isn't the one who established it.
Unless it's named in memory of his
Oh,
brother.
yes. Very well put. Yeah. Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
That's an interesting theory. I like it. I actually am not fully opposed to that. I feel like if they give him the task.
The reason it came up, I was rereading the sections that you're talking about in the Akalabeth where it talks about what Elendil's father, and it just occurred to me there's no reason why that couldn't be taken on by someone else, and Anarion would be a natural person.
Anarion would be, because he doesn't really do anything else in the story other than go and die at the siege.
Right.
Yes. Which is just pathetic, for goodness sake.
It really is. It's another one of these, like, meaningless deaths. It's almost like Muriel's railing kill. But it's that I would actually see that working out, and to have him sail to Valinor and then never be seen again. Right. Would be a really
they could
it would also fit so well into this thing that they're playing on for Elendil, which is loss after loss after loss after loss.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I'm with you, James. I'm with you. I like it.
If any of the showrunners are listening and you had a different idea, ditch that. Take James's idea.
Yes, this is a good one. This is a really good one. Plus, it means that whoever you recruit to whoever you hire to play Anarion, you really only have to have him for 2 seasons. So
cheaper,
smaller contract, right?
Totally cheap.
I might be available. I'm a little short.
That raises another question. I think we briefly talked about this last time, but who are the characters that we're expecting to see casting announcements for in the next?
Well, Anarion for sure.
18 months. Anarion. Who else do we need?
Maybe Celeborn.
And Celeborn is the other one.
I'd love to see Celeborn. Yeah,
I think we should see Celeborn this time.
Celeborn.
It's been long enough. It's time to see Celeborn.
And he has been mentioned.
So
really, he should be brought in.
So exactly, who's been mentioned that we haven't seen yet? Anarion, Celeborn. Mm-hmm. Who else?
Let me think. Nah, I don't know. I don't know that there is anybody else.
Yeah.
Are there other characters we're expecting to see? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it'll depend maybe on who it turns out the Dark Wizard really is. Because if he's one of the Blues, then I think we'd like to maybe find out what happened to the other one. We got to find out, obviously, who the 9 Nazgul are going to be. But
well, what I was going to say is anyone who isn't Celeborn or Anarion is probably going to be a future ring
Dead or a Nazgul. Those are your choices. And we already know, I think, at least 2 of the Nazgul for sure. I mean, Kemen for certain. And then, Farazan.
I think I might actually kick off if Kemen isn't a ring wraith.
Seriously, he's got to be.
The wimpiest, most ridiculous, most pathetic ring wraith number 9.
He better not be the Witch King, for crying out loud. He's not strong enough to be the Witch King.
No, absolutely not.
He was a mighty sorcerer of old, we read, before he even became a Nazgul. So it's
you want him to be like, when you pick sides at school for like football games and things like that. He's going to be the last one picked, right?
That was me, Sarah. That was me.
It was me too, but it's probably a larger share of, when I was a kid, forget it.
You're getting a moment's sympathy.
Okay, now we're done. That's right. I have a feeling, though, in all fairness, that for a lot of our audience, let's say that out of 10 kids, one of them is always last picked.
Number.
I think there's a disproportionate number of last picked people in our audience.
You're all winners now. Don't worry.
That's right. Thank you for taking the words right out of my mouth, James. All right, sticking with the Pelargir line a little bit, we've talked about Isildur and Theo. We've talked a little bit about Arondir and Theo, and I do love that there's a reconciliation there, because that moment where Theo is basically like, "Hey, yeah, did you know my dad? It ain't you."
Oh yeah!
Wow, that was hard, man. That hit hard.
Yeah, but I do feel sorry for Theo. He has been through it.
Totally through it. Yeah. What a terrible life so far. What an absolutely brutal life so far.
Yeah, and then to lose his mother in that way.
Yes.
And to feel so helpless and so useless when it happens.
Yeah.
And so powerless. That's going to make him into a very angry young man. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's I can't even imagine the pain that he's endured. I mean, you think back to season 1 and all the things that took place, including the orc that came through the floor. I mean, that he had to fight off with his mother.
That's going to give you some nasty flashbacks on its own.
It sure will. All the friends that would have been killed in the battle. And then, his mom, who he thinks is killed, but didn't die, but then did die. That's just, up and down. And, again, not having a father around, not even necessarily knowing who he is, just knowing he's not around here. So that was harsh, but I totally get it. I don't blame Theo for wanting to be the king of the dead. I'm sure that's his career objective at this point.
Actually, what I don't blame Theo for is his anger and his lashing out at everybody around him.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Anybody who he perceives as being that little bit too emotionally close. He's kicking off at them.
Yeah, yeah.
And Arondir, of course, is a safe person to kick off at. Arondir is not going to slap him around.
Yep.
Nope.
He's not going to scream at him. He's going to take it.
Yeah.
And don't we often take out our fury on people that we know are safe to do that with? It's not necessarily a great thing, but it's an understandable thing to do. And he's still a kid.
He is.
What is he? Maybe a 14, late teenager?
15?
Yeah.
I was thinking
certainly started
teenager.
off that way, and then we get the
the
extra 2 years aging between
seasons. He did grow like about a foot between seasons 1 and 2.
Yes. He's definitely hit a growth spurt.
Yeah.
But he's meant to be, isn't he? He's meant to be a teenager.
Yeah, clearly.
And things have just been awful. And life is hard enough as a teenager anyway. It's a horrible age, actually.
Let alone being a teenager in that part of the world of Middle-earth.
Yeah. And everything's hard.
Everything's really hard. And it's about to get harder because even though he's quote unquote the Lord of Pelargir, which is an interesting, I didn't know that Arondir had the ability to grant titles, but okay. He's clearly going to be facing a much more difficult existence than he would have before, thanks to the arrival of Kemen and the Númenóreans. That last little twist at the end, with Kemen coming in and basically saying, "Oh, we're tearing up the contract. Here's your new rules. Here's your new regulations. You're gonna if you want to eat, you're gonna have to give us wood, right? You're gonna have to go out. They're only trees, just Whoa." They're really telegraphing it when he says they're only trees, weren't they? I don't envy him at all. He's going to have a very difficult time of it.
Yeah.
Kemen.
Kemen's behavior and what he says there totally tracks with what we get from Tolkien's own writing. The Númenóreans did just, at some point, decide they were going to land and take whatever they wanted. They were just going to take it.
It changed, there's a line in there about how the memories of the wise and noble kings of old, those memories became darkened and they were replaced with these people who just basically came and took. And then, for the couple hundred years under Ar-Pharazôn, because keep in mind, these people did live a lot longer than other, the normal men. Under his kingship, they became not even just a expanding empire or a colonial force. They become a terrorizing force.
Yeah, slave takers.
Slave takers, sacrifice takers. They were bringing people back to the altar of Melkor in the temple to be sacrificed in the hopes that they could cheat death. It just gets absolutely so dark, and I really hope that we get to see how dark it gets.
There's that wonderful tiny little tale of Tal Elmar.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Oh.
Yes. And I know it's unfinished. Of course it is. Thanks, John Ronald.
Of course it is.
But it's a really interesting little nugget of writing that is set in exactly that time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because we got the ships with the black sails as well as the ones with the white sails, and how those are the ships that'll take you away. And they have rumors of how their people are being eaten or sacrificed.
Yep.
And it's a dark time.
For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's in volume 12 of History of Middle-earth, The Peoples
of Middle-earth.
Yeah. And it's a story about the Númenóreans from the point of view of the low men, basically.
Exactly. Of the men living in that part of Middle-earth. And it's
exactly the sort of Pelargir situation.
Fascinating story, really is, and highly recommended. I'm actually going through that right now on today's Tolkien Times, but it's part of the bonus episode. So if you're not on unfortunately, that's one that I'd love to be able to get into on the show, but it's such a deep cut that it felt like the kind of thing I really should just do for folks who really want to get into it. But it is a great story. By all means, go find it, read it. It's well worth it.
It's a nice standalone. It's one of those things where with the history of Middle-earth, it can sometimes be intimidating because like, do I have to read everything? Where do I start? All this kind of stuff. But there are, especially in Peoples of Middle-earth, there are these wonderful little nuggets and some other later volumes too. But that's a great example of a story you can just read by itself. You don't need to read any other parts of history of Middle-earth. Yeah,
it's really a great story. And it also gives us a glimpse, I think, into Tolkien's thoughts about the Númenorian expansion, about how wrong it was. Because there's this wonderful line that one of the native inhabitants of that region says to his captured wife, who's clearly a Númenorian of some kind. She is arguing and talking about all these things. And he says something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure I'm not going to get the quote right. But white skin and bright eyes are basically don't give you the right to take this land. Mm-hmm. It's no license for doing this, for theft. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, could that be any more on point, Professor? That is brutal, but then she turns around and makes the point, well, neither is your, sort of stout build and darker skin. I mean, it's like none of that makes it right. Yeah. Nobody does.
Yeah.
It's such a really great insight into so many things about this expansion. But yeah, please, by all means, go read Tal Elmar. Couple other things in the Pelargir line we want to talk about. We've already talked about sort of the ending part and how things are going to be changing going forward, and we'll make some predictions here. But I do want to talk about that one moment, the centipede of unusual size. We've talked before about how there are elements in this show that have reminded us of The Princess Bride, like the sword fight between Galadriel and Sauron. Like the line that Galadriel says to Arondir, there's a dearth of elven heroes this night. 'Twould be a pity to lose you. This is yet another. It feels like they're discovering the dangers of the fire swamp right here in Pelargir.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. What do we make of that moment? How much more fun can we make of it? Because again, it felt like we got to get these CG artists some work.
It did seem like it was yet another, we've got to put in some sort of creature encounter at this point.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. It's like the Dungeon Master rolled,
Exactly. It was an encounter roll. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also just this, why was it described as a nameless thing in the deep when it's a couple of meters?
Yeah, it's not that deep.
And as we discussed at the time, I think the joke about we'll call it supper would have made so much more sense coming from Isildur than Arondir.
It would have fitted the humour we've already seen from his character. It would have worked. But coming out of Arondir's mouth, it just didn't work.
Unless that was sort of the point. Maybe the point was it was just a reminder that Arondir should stay away from the dad jokes.
It's funny because Ismail's actually a very, very funny guy. I mean, you and I, I think we've all actually had a chance to interact with him.
I have met him, yes, and he was just delightful.
Super charming, super funny.
Yeah.
Always with a smile on his face, which is funny because Arondir never smiles. But Arondir's so straight, he can't tell a joke to save his life.
Yeah. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that was the point.
Maybe it was a little sort of tongue-in-cheek reminder that elves don't do humor.
Elves don't grin. Yes.
No, it was a little cringy. That line though also felt like a little bit of fan service again. Like once again another callback. Even though it is a book line, it was a callback to the film. As so many of these lines are, I know we've caught some heat for pointing out these callbacks, but that's the problem with these callbacks. They take you out of the moment. Tell your own story, tell it the way you want to tell it. And we're going to praise you like crazy when you do, because some of those moments are fantastic. And how much more praise can we give the whole Adar storyline that we talked about earlier? And that's one of the most original things that they've come up with. So when they do things that call back to the Jackson films like that, where it just feels like forced fan service as opposed to, a little bit of a nod. Yeah, it just was cringy. I could have done without that whole moment. I mean, I guess it furthered the story in that it showed us that Estrid was not going to, run away, even though she's given
that was about the only purpose it seemed to have in the
Estrid could be possibly on their side, maybe.
Another one
multiple
of the Whiplash
oscillations
moments.
of Whiplash. What side
oscillations?
Is
Estrid oscillations. Oh, that is good stuff. Is there anything else in the Pelargir line we want to touch on before we take a quick break and come back to Rune?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
No,
you guys, you want to handle Rune on your own? Because if I'm here,
let's take a quick break and then we'll be ready for it. Okay, we're finally at the point where we're going to be talking about Rune, and unfortunately, Alan has decided it's all too much for him.
Yeah, he's had to step out. Take a little air. Calm himself down.
He may come back at some stage. He may not be able to help himself once.
Yes,
actually,
I think that's probably it.
If you guys still talking about Rune
somewhere?
Are you still?
He's back.
Now, Alan, are you sure about this?
Well, I've taken the proper medication. I've had a nice little meal to calm myself.
Done some meditation?
Yes, exactly. I did a little yoga. I just chilled out for a few minutes. I think I'm ready to go. Let's talk about Rune, folks. Welcome to Rune.
Is that the calmest you're going to be the entire time we talk about Rune?
I believe that might be the calmest I've ever been. If I get
Yes.
any more calm, I'll be the calmest that I've ever been, Mr. Frodo. If I take one more deep breath.
Okay, let's start off with what we thought were the positives. What were the things we liked about the Rune thing? I actually loved seeing the stores.
Yeah.
Nobody was a wonderful character. I enjoyed.
I loved him.
I enjoyed a lot of
and
that.
I love the little romance that he's got going with Poppy. I think that's fantastic.
That was adorable, actually.
It really was. Yeah, super cute.
And Poppy deserves something good. I mean, poor old Poppy has really had some hard times fairly recently.
That is true. Yeah. Including falling into that trap in episode 1 or 2, where for a minute you thought they were going to accidentally kill her.
Yes.
Oops.
Yeah. The stores were good. I liked Gundabale. I thought she was an interesting leader. I may tease the Suzats because of the redundancy, but I get it. And it's still kind of neat that they're pointing that direction. I know it doesn't fit the timeline. I know it doesn't even come close to fitting the timeline. The last thing they need to do.
Nothing does, so we're hand waving
exactly.
that, right?
I'm just having to hand wave it because they're going to meet the Falahides next season. And then somewhere along the line in seasons 4 or 5, they will establish the Shire, even though we all know that the Shire wasn't established until the Third Age. Arnor wasn't even around anymore. It was just Arthedain by that point. And they were the ones, that king was the one who gave them the authority to build the Shire. So, yeah, okay, fine. I'm hand waving. You're right. Because the characters are nice. And I liked seeing the Stour village, and I liked seeing the difference between the Harfoots and the Stours, sort of the wanderers and the homebodies.
Also, the fact it seems to be a matriarchy as well.
Yes, which fits the hobbits, absolutely. Yeah, I really did like that. And there are some elements of the Dark Wizard and his sort of acolytes and the Gaudrim. I didn't dislike every element of that. I liked sort of the mystery around the acolytes, the mystery around the Dark Wizard. Not so much the mystery around his identity, but the mystery around his motivations, the mystery around what it is that he's trying to accomplish.
And even the Gaudrim as well. We've got this sort of interesting setup. We don't know why they're wearing masks. We know that there's something about their face that got done to them, and we don't know what yet. So presumably we're going to find that out. We get told that they were once kings.
Yeah.
So there's
they can't
this
all
interesting.
Have been kings. I mean, don't kings have to have subjects?
You shall be king, and you shall be king, and you shall
Everybody
be king.
gets a crown.
You shall be king.
My name's Dennis. I'm 37. Anyway.
You didn't bother to ask, did you? Oh, man, that's right. Now they need to find another race of people, not the Gaudrim. They need to find somebody else. And they're, of course, an anarcho-syndicalist commune, and they sort of take it in turns to be an executive of the week.
Yes.
We weren't all kings, but we were all been executive of the week. All right, we digress.
A simple majority in the case of domestic matters and a 2/3 majority in the case of...
That's so good.
Anyway.
I love it.
Good Lord, you two.
Oh, man.
But so the Gaudrim are interesting.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be, and I think that's going to play into which of the Rune people get rings as well. I think that probably ties in.
I do wish they didn't lean so much into the Tatooine sort of tropes for the
I was going to say the Star Wars references, yes.
You know, it felt too much. I expect him to write banthas now. It's just a little bit over the top.
Yep.
They were a bit sand people-esque, weren't
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's right. Maybe next time we'll just meet the Jawas. But yeah, I did like the Stewards. I liked Nobody. I thought he was what was his actual name? Because he did have a name. I can't remember it now. We would just call him Nobody.
Oh no, it was not Merrimack.
Merrimack. That's it. And it was Mary something.
That's it. Merrimack. Yeah. So, okay, before we go on to anybody else here, I have a question for you. I feel like, eventually we're going to establish the Shire. We're going to have some family names. The Merrimack thing is what made me think about this real briefly. We've got Nori Brandyfoot, and we've got Poppy Proudfellow. Neither of these two people have families anymore. So somehow when they... I have a feeling we've got
Nori has a family.
Well, but they're not together, right?
Her mother and her father are still with the rest of the...
Yeah, but she's never going to see them again, I think is kind of what I'm saying. Like she's gone off and left. I
guess.
But I mean, you're right. She does have a family that is alive. I guess what I'm trying to say here, and I may be totally stretching, but I think there's a reason one of them is proud something and the other is something foot. Because somehow I get a feeling we're going to get to Proudfoot from here. Proud feet. Which, of course, is actually wrong, as Tolkien pointed out.
Yes.
In his letters, he said, no, it really is Proudfoots. I have a feeling that we're going to get that name, Proudfoot, at some point. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. But you're right, of course. Nori does still have a family. I wasn't meaning to imply that they're dead the way that Poppy's family is. But she's nowhere near them, and I'm not sure she's ever going to be reunited with them. So,
well, so long as Poppy and Merrimack don't have a son called Smeagol.
Oh, goodness. Or Deagle. Yeah. Let's not go that way. Over by the Anduin. Yeah. Mm-hmm. When they settle down there. Oh, that would be terrible. Please don't go that route. Have we talked about all the good things in Rune? Well, there are some good things to talk about Tom Bombadil, but Tom Bombadil's his own thing. So we kind of need to talk about him all at once. Take the good and the bad.
Well, should we talk about him?
Yeah. Because... I mean, we can still talk about the Stranger too, but those two lines come together so much that maybe we talk about Tom and the Stranger together. Let's do that.
Well, before Tom shows up, we do get this sort of Stranger looking for his staff, right? Yeah. That's sort of he's having this dream, and he has this dream where
very early on we see
Nori
the vision.
Nori is under attack, and he's looking for the staff, and then we get the Tom Bombadil moment.
And I don't mind that we have Tom Bombadil. I want to make that really clear.
Yep.
This isn't like, oh, how dare they try to adapt. Go for it, man.
Yeah.
That in itself, not a problem.
Yeah. I think the challenge I have, the struggle that I was presented with, was how they sort of lifted him and his entire context in the Withywindle and brought it all over here. Like
even down to Old Man Willow becoming Old Man Ironfoot.
Yeah.
Ironwood, yeah.
And they didn't need that tree. Take that one moment away and you take that initial cringe, because that was right very early on in meeting Tom.
Yeah.
Get rid of that scene because it serves no purpose in the story whatsoever other than to try to tie you back to Old Man Willow.
Right.
And I feel like maybe suddenly I'm not looking through such darkly colored lenses at the rest of Tom Bombadil, because that just felt so forced and so awkward.
You're right. And it was Tom Bombadil's reaction to that as well. The way he talked to the tree.
Oh, identical. Mm-hmm.
Was just an example of the dialogue or the delivery of lines that really didn't work for me, because it lacked that joy. Yeah. I want to see Tom Bombadil just be this person that's always joyful and just has no care in the world. Whereas the Tom Bombadil in this show was just, he was at best subdued and at worst angry.
Pissed off
all the time. A bit grumpy, didn't he?
Grumpy Tom.
Yeah. And Tom Bombadil's the last person that I want to see grumpy.
And I know I've heard the argument made, because I've said the same thing and been told, well, you would be too if you were, because Tom's very environmentally minded, and he's out here in Rune trying to find out what happened and why this place has become so devastated. And so, this is weighing heavy on his heart. But I just don't buy it, because Tom, doesn't matter what's going on in the world, Tom is always going to be...
The point is he doesn't have the weight of...
Exactly, doesn't have the weight of anything, which is why the ring means nothing to him. It's why Elrond says, well, we could give it to him and it'd be safe for a little while, But one of these days, he'd just forget that he even has it.
Just forget it. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is I've heard some people suggest that maybe, this is part of Tom Bombadil's arc. Tom Bombadil's so old, his
arc is
have
already
an
done
arc at this point.
Yeah.
We're already in the
It should be
last
complete-
2% of his arc.
Just a straight line, no arcing involved.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Just like you don't really see the curvature of the earth unless you're in a jet plane, at 30,000 feet. You don't see Tom's arc unless you go back to the days of the trees.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It did feel, it was the use of so much dialogue from the text, which normally is a good thing, but given, like you said, without joy, without the character of Tom, combined with the presence of Old Man Ironwood, and just all of a sudden this idea of Tom as sort of a Jedi master in the desert, just, I guess that's the whole thing. There were just way too many Star Wars parallels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, not only the Sand People / Galdrim, but Ben Kenobi / Tom Bombadil. It felt really weird.
And even on this point that, admittedly you and I, Alan, got wrong in that we
were wrong.
We were mad at the test, but I still contend that it didn't work, that Tom Bombadil would do it.
Correct.
A riddle
because
like
Tom
I agree.
Bombadil isn't going to even try to deceive you. That's just not how he works.
Yeah, that was my problem. Even admitting that I got it wrong in terms of.
That's fair, and I admit the same thing. He really was trying to trick him, but that's just also not Tom any more than setting him up to go after power rather than his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in hindsight now, taken as a whole in that season, that line no longer makes me as mad as it did when it first came out of his mouth. The one about there are some who deserve.
I'm mad about it for a different reason.
Yeah.
Previously, I was mad about it because it seemed to miss the point.
It did miss the point
of what Tolkien's original line was. Now I'm just upset that it was put on Tom Bombadil's lips.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of his role here because, again, I feel like at this point in Tom's history, which is ancient, he's not playing a role like this. He's not going to be your Ben Kenobi / Yoda / whoever. He'll talk with Gandalf, but he's not going to be the guiding light or the mentor for Gandalf.
The only thing I will say, and I mentioned this in the previous episode about this episode, the one thing I do like about this encounter, or the one thing I do like about the fact that we did get an encounter between Gandalf and Tom Bombadil, is it just brings whole new meaning to the end of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Where Gandalf says, "I before I go, I'm going to spend some. I want to go spend some time with Tom."
Yeah.
That becomes meaningful in a whole new way in light of what happened in the show, which I like.
Yeah, he's a moss gatherer, and I've been doomed to roll, this whole time. Yeah,
exactly. That's right. He uses that.
So good. In fact, you were co-hosting with me when we got through Many Partings.
When we talked about
yeah, that was a fantastic moment. Yeah, it does bring that to light a little bit.
Do you think we'll see Tom Bombadil again?
I hope so. I hope that they do it in a way that sort of restores Tom the way we see him. I want him corrected in a way.
The stranger stroke Gandalf stroke Grand Elf is going to be in Rune for a little bit longer, isn't he? He's got this dark wizard now to do something about.
I don't know that Tom Bombadil's needed anymore.
No, but maybe they'll keep him there because the stranger is going to be there. I don't know. I don't know if they will keep him around.
So should we talk about the Grand Elf name? Because that was the other thing I hated.
Oh, that was
in this,
cringy.
The low point for the season to me.
It really was, because
it would have been fine. So they set up that whole looking for his Gand earlier on, and I'm fine with that because that is the etymology of the word. Why they had to somehow suggest that it was a mishearing of the word grand, I didn't need that at all.
Treating your audience like they're silly little children. Let's give you something so blindingly obvious. No, why? You could have gone with the searching for his Gand and then actually had a weaving in of that etymology of that word, and it would have been okay.
It does, though, strike me as a little bit odd because, again, how much would the Harfoots or Stores, how much experience would they have had with actual elves in the first place to call them a
Well,
grand
that's
elf?
sort of the point, though, that they don't know. Remember, we saw that right at the very start when they find Meteor Man.
Yeah.
They're wondering what he is. Is he a giant? Is he a man? Is he an elf?
He's taller than
they
an
do
elf.
bring up elf as a possibility.
Yeah.
So there is that. You can imagine that they would have
They would
had
have stories at least.
legends, stories about elves. Yeah.
Histories of some kind. Yeah. I wasn't a fan of that way of getting his name.
No, me either.
No, not at all.
But maybe they'll do better when they give him his other names. Maybe we'll see one of the elves will actually call him Mithrandir, and come up with a reason why he is the Grey Wanderer.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get Durin will somehow figure out how to call him Tharkun.
Yeah, it would be nice.
And maybe he'll finally remember that his actual name is Olorin.
I wonder how if they'll deal with this at all, any kind of interaction between Gandalf and Círdan.
Oh, I hope they do.
That would be fun, especially as they'd have to bring Círdan back in.
I mean, is this his one visit? Is he going to leave and come back?
Well, except that he wouldn't come back until Third Age 1000, and this story is not going to cover the Third Age, so we can't
pay attention to that. We can't pay attention to that.
No, it's true. Timelines clearly don't matter.
Because I would have actually loved it if Círdan was his mentor, not.
Oh,
not
I would
Tom
too.
Bombadil.
Yeah.
That would have worked a lot better for me.
I don't know, because if he gets the ring too early, then he can't get the ring. He can't get the ring. He can't get the ring in this show. He really can't. In which case,
I'm trying to think.
He maybe won't meet Círdan.
It's such a lost opportunity for them not to meet and for Círdan to give him the ring. I'm wondering if that's going to be one of those, epilogue-ish kind of things they might do towards the end.
Yeah.
Of things.
I can see that. Maybe at the end of season 5, after the siege of Barad-dûr, after the fall of Sauron, we see a scene that has Círdan giving him Narya.
Maybe the hobbits finding the Shire.
Yeah.
Let's briefly talk about the Dark Wizard.
Yes.
We haven't really tied that up.
Interestingly, very Saruman coded, of course, and for the longest time I just assumed that's going to be Saruman. But the screenwriters, the showrunners, have made it clear, not clear, but very close to clear, that it won't be. Like,
Okay. The funny thing is, the way they put it, they basically said that it was something along the lines of if the dark wizard being Saruman would violate the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, well, the stranger being Gandalf did too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I know. So either that's cementing the fact that he is Saruman. I feel like the way they said it, though, is a way for them to tell us that's not Saruman.
I think so. That's
one of the blues.
It's pretty hard not to. Yeah.
One of the blues who's gone dark, which is what Tolkien thought had happened, that they established these cults. And I feel like that certainly fits. It'll be interesting if they choose to somehow make him one of the ring wraiths, because, of course, the 9 are supposed to be men, not Istari. But I can see that happening and them sort of changing that around a little bit. He'd certainly be a good either Witch King or Camul the Easterling. Based on his location for that case. So that could work. But yeah, I have to say at this point, I'm going to take them at face value and that he's not Saruman. So,
yep. Well, I remember when we were discussing in season 1 whether the stranger was Gandalf, and there were all those follow your nose kind of lines. And one of the things we talked about was, well, maybe it's not Gandalf, maybe that's just a wizard-like thing to say.
Maybe.
And so similarly with the Saruman coded things, maybe you could argue, well, yes, it seems to us like Saruman, but maybe it's just a general property of the Istar.
Yeah, it could be. No, you're right. I mean, Saruman could just be following in the mold of, a previous bad wizard. Maybe that's just what happens when wizards go bad,
Right.
You leave something in the refrigerator too long, it smells. Wizard goes bad, he looks like Saruman. I mean, it's just
starts to fester.
I do hope we see more of the acolytes of the cultists. I've really enjoyed that. I want to know more about them. I think they're really nicely mysterious.
Well, they were blink and you miss them this season, weren't they?
They were early in just that episode 1 or 2 there when we first got out there. I love that he had to draw blood on one to bring back his most powerful. And I think that to me suggests potential Witch King because of
using the dark arts.
Exactly. The necromancy and all of that. Oh my goodness. I think the thing that disappoints me of this storyline, and again, I feel like I'm beating a drum.
The one thing?
The one
Just
thing.
the one thing.
The one more thing. The one more thing that disappoints me is that now the storyline is going to be more complicated. Because it had been the Harfoots and the Stoors together, also with Gandalf together, and now they're all going their separate ways, and we're going to get even more split. And I already feel like the storyline takes up too much screen time because we're not getting enough Númenor, we're not getting enough Khazad-dûm. Those are the stronger storylines and have the potential for the most fascinating elements of the story. And so they're spending too much time on this already, and now they're going to spend more time on it. No. So where do we think this goes in the future? We've got the Harfoots and Stoors going one way, or I shouldn't say the Harfoots. We've got these two Harfeet.
Right.
and the Stoors Harfeet going off together and eventually finding the Fallowhides, I'm sure. And you've got the stranger going off with or without Tom to confront the Dark Wizard and maybe eventually Sauron. So where does it go next year? This is such a weird storyline. I don't even know how to. I have no predictions.
Yeah, I have no
There's
idea.
a whole load of untwisting going to be needed on this, isn't there? I'm honestly not sure what they're going to do.
That's fair.
Well, also the other wild card in all this is if we get Sauron heading east.
Oh yeah, if he actually goes out to the east, which he should. I mean, at some point he needs to make a visit out there.
Should, although he's going to be a little bit busy with the elves next season, I would have thought. But nah.
Maybe he won't be busy with them right away. Maybe he starts out heading east, starts giving out the rings. In the meantime, Lindon is preparing for battle, and maybe that's when Celeborn comes back. And then after Sauron has distributed a few rings, he comes back and is attacking with his orc army.
But we could end up with a situation where you've got the proto-hobbits separate from Gandalf, separate from the Dark Wizard and the Galdrim. So one storyline
could become
trifurcated.
3 or 4. Yeah, exactly.
3, yeah.
Good grief.
Which should be really awkward.
It's already twisty-turny.
It's already taking up too much screen time.
I mean, we've lost Eregion. We don't need to worry
true.
about Eregion.
The Eregion
anymore.
line is gone. Celebrimbor is gone. That's fair. Adar is gone.
Right.
So, but now we're really expanding a Pelargir line that was, I guess, taking the place of the Southlands, but because Mordor really isn't taking the place of the Southlands because there are no men there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We want to see the expansions of the Khazad-dûm storyline. We need to see the expansion of the Númenorian storyline, big time. And they're going to have to come at the cost of some other storyline getting less time. And it just feels to me like this is the obvious choice.
I say that they've gotten rid of Eregion, but presumably there's potentially a Rivendell.
Well, yeah, that's true. Oh, there will be. There needs to be.
So,
there absolutely needs to be.
We're going to end up with too many storylines.
Again.
Yeah. Once again. Way too many.
Even more.
In a way, I feel badly because, there's this psychological law of primacy and recency, right? You guys familiar with those? So like if I give you a list of 20 things, you're going to remember the first thing, you're going to remember the last one. Might not remember everything in between. We've just talked about what I think all three of us agree is the weakest of the storylines. And yet now we have to go into giving the show final grades. So I'm going to ask you to set aside the frustration about Rhûn. Think back to last week and the great stuff we talked about with Númenor and with Khazad-dûm, and think about this week and the things we've talked about, like with Adar and with Elrond and Galadriel. Let's talk final grades. Do you remember what you gave the show in season 1?
I'm pretty sure I gave it a B-. That
sounds right.
I certainly gave it a higher grade than you two.
No. Because what I said was that without what was going to be revealed in season 2, I would give it a C, but I would be willing to upgrade that to a B.
Ah, I see. So we're giving it retrospective better grades for season 1.
And I actually think it has. Yeah. I would bump it up to a B because I think a lot of the concerns that I had from 1 got addressed.
So I gave season 1 an even lower grade than both of you. I gave it a C-. Yeah. I think in hindsight, now that some of those concerns have been addressed or fleshed out, I'm moving that up to a C+.
Yep.
I know it's still only slightly above average, but I am giving this season, and I'll lead off our grades, I'm giving this season a full letter grade better from last season. I'm giving this season a B-. It's now reaching, good. It's not yet great. It has great moments. And in fairness, I know I said I'm trying to forget about Rune. This show is a B+ without that entire storyline. If you just drop that storyline all together completely, and this is this is no reflection on the cast people, the actors who do, because every one of them,
great actors in there.
Even Rory Kinnear, who did Tom. I know we criticized his accent. He nailed it later on. Like he seemed to fix all of that. So all of the cast did a fantastic job, and it was shot beautifully. It's just, it takes away from the really good storyline. So for me, the show's a B-. It's a B+ without any Rune, and I'm willing to change that grade next year if I see some things that change it. But I'm also willing to change it down. So be careful, Rings of Power. But you got a B- from me for season 2.
Okay, well, I'm happy to go next if you like.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to give this a solid B.
Okay.
Right? I'm not willing to jump to a B+ yet. And again, it's got a lot to do with some of the weaknesses in the storytelling. Nothing to do with any of the casting or anything like that. I just think that there were some unnecessary sillinesses that wound their way in. And also the Rune storyline kind of grated. But I do think that they have produced, for me, enough really fun moments and enough things that pass the shippy test.
Yeah.
And also, just the dwarves alone.
No.
If it was a story that was just Khazad-dûm, there wouldn't be enough pluses to add to the A.
Yeah, seriously.
Right? And honestly, it is storylines like that have pulled it up for me, and storylines like Rune that pull it back down again.
Yep.
But I'm going to go with a solid B, which is there is room for improvement yet, but they're going in the right direction.
That is a good solid grade. James.
Okay, well, I'm going to continue with the grade inflation here. I'm actually going to give it a B+.
Okay.
I think there were a lot of solid A moments.
There were
in this.
The Khazad-dûm line for sure.
I think there were moments in episode 3 and episode 5 where I just thought this is really, really good stuff. And so, but there are just still enough of those moments, not just Rune, but some of the other.
Yeah. Some of those cringy moments, right? The
cringy moments that prevent it from being an A across the board. So my final grade's a B+.
That's not bad then. That means that across the board of the B+, a B, and a B-, the show's averaging a B. And it is a lot better.
I think it is a lot better.
The show has definitely improved across the entire spectrum. Yeah.
And again, like James said, I'm willing to revisit that grade once we've seen season 3, which might address some of our concerns from season 2. I'm not sure how they can wave away the Rune thing, but...
or some of the other cringy bits. I don't think you can justify cringe by later story development.
No, there's not going to be anything they reveal that makes the centipede of unusual size any less of just a waste of film. Same with some of those other moments, right? That again, unless Shelob comes back and shows up, what was the point of showing us that other than the fact that you could
just fan service?
Yeah. So I guess that's not bad, really. I mean, I took it from a C- to C+ for season 1 in hindsight, based on the things that they've done in season 2 to give me a better showing of season 1, and then season 2 on its own's gotten itself a B- from me. So, all right, we're headed in the right direction. And that's a good thing. James, you've already given us your really cool prediction for season 3, or at least for the future.
One of mine,
and I do love it.
Yeah,
I'm actually consider me on board with that. I love the idea of Anarion taking Amandil's role. Absolutely love it. Sarah, do you have any sort of out there theories that you want to put forward?
I don't know about out there, but I'm thinking we're going to see greater colonial expansion on the part of Númenor, because this is going to be season 3. I think Númenor will have to sink by the end of season 4. So they're really going to have to push the Númenor deserves to sink thing in season 3. So I'm wanting to see even more slappable Kemen. I'm wanting to see them just ravaging the coastline and taking whatever they want and setting up an antagonism with Theo that I think will pay off later on. So that's
I like that.
a prediction.
You're right, because it's going to be the conflict between his personal respect for Isildur, but his hatred for Numenor.
Yes.
I think
he's going to absolutely loathe Numenor, because let's face it, who's the face of Numenor in Pelagia right now?
It's the most punchable face of Middle-earth.
Yeah.
And kudos to him for being able to play that role. I'm sure he's nowhere near as punchable in real life.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody is. But it's I've got to imagine that as an actor, it's so much more challenging to play that
someone
kind
so
of
repulsive.
Yeah. How do you play repulsive? That's got to be hard to do. But he's done it well. So kudos to him for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy predictions.
Go for it, Alan.
I mean, I've kind of already thrown my ideas out there. Things like I'm hoping that we see Celebrimbor's body on the banner to start off next season. That would actually be a great shot number one.
It would be an amazing shot, even
tight
if it's
shot
slightly
on
in the
his
distance.
body.
My prediction is we won't.
Yeah.
I love the idea of starting out on his body on the banner, and a really tight frame shot, and then single shot zooms out to see this massive orc army with Sauron at the front charging towards Lindon. I think that would be
showrunners, are you listening? Because you should be shooting that.
What a shot that's going to be. Because it could be another one of those like minute-long single take or single cut shots where, you then turn the camera and then move with the army as they're going across some, whatever, maybe a bridge or, making
an enormous
own
chasm that's in the way.
Chasm, I was gonna say.
Ding, ding, ding. Maybe we'll see some geological cleverness. I don't know. Predictions. The rune line will continue to annoy me. I'm with you, Sarah, that we're going to see a lot more Númenor expansion. We have to. I think by the end of season 3, Pharazôn captures Sauron. That's the end of season 3, and I cannot wait for that because we've seen Anatar manipulate Celebrimbor because Celebrimbor didn't know who he really was. Our Pharazôn knows who Sauron is. And he's still going to be manipulated. It is going to be magical to watch. And I'm going to love that. And that's going to probably get a very good grade for me if they execute it as well as they will, which I've zero doubts that they will, given how well they did Celebrimbor and Anatar.
It's going to be fun to watch Charlie and Tristan together.
Two fantastic actors, man. Yeah. That's right up there with Charles and Charlie. I mean, it's going to be
they
really
were
good.
Awesome. They were really standout for the series.
They deserve an award,
actually.
Really. Those scenes were just breathtaking all season long. All right.
Can I make a prediction about what I don't think we're ever going to see?
Oh, sure.
I don't think we're going to see the reshaping of the world when Númenor sinks.
Oh, interesting. I think you're probably right. How do you explain that? How do you show that in a visual medium?
Yeah. That's it. I think it's a huge thing to do.
I think the world's already round then.
Right. They have not mentioned the world being flat, which
and why would you?
According to the lore, it is still flat. They haven't mentioned anything to do with that.
Right.
No.
And I think that they're going to just concentrate on the destruction of Númenor, and I don't think Ilúvatar is going to reshape the world.
Can I say something that might make you angry?
You're always welcome to say things to make me angry.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Sarah smash.
This would make me angry too, but it just occurred to me, I wonder if they will drop the great armament altogether.
No.
What?
And just have Númenor destroyed.
Oh, like human sacrifice causes it to be destroyed?
Númenor sunk with Pharazôn on Númenor.
No.
I don't want it, but it occurs to me if they're changing the story to the extent they already have, we've got to be really, I don't know if we can assume that all these great moments are actually going to happen.
Ooh, no.
Maybe they don't land on the shores of Valinor. Maybe his ships are caught up in the big wave.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I can see that maybe, that they don't actually land, but they've got to get, you got to get that moment.
I know to us they need to. I know that to us they need to do that. But I'm setting myself up for me.
You're preparing me to be really disappointed.
I'm preparing for the worst.
There will be some bitter complaints.
There will be very
right.
bitter complaints. You've got to have Sauron saying, "But great kings take what is their due." I mean, you got to have him telling him.
Which you notice Kemen kind of said something similar to his dad about the scepter.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. You get to shape it now. Yeah, you get to do what you want.
Yeah. Sorry to let that.
All right. Before anybody says anything to make anybody else mad, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And folks, that concludes another episode of the Rings of Power wrap up. Now, we do still hope to have an interview or two lined up for you over the coming weeks, but we don't know. So just in case this is it until season 3, thank you so much for joining us as we enjoyed, obviously, a better season of a show that we believe is pointed mostly in the right direction.
Mostly, yeah. With some improvements that could still be made, but it's been a good season.
Agreed.
Thanks to the team that helps us get this show out there every week. Our editor, Jordan Reynolds, Barleyman Becca Davis, social media manager, Casey Hilsey, and our website guru, Phil Dean.
And speaking of the website, please check it out at ringswrapup.com. We've got show notes, our online storefront, and one of these days, maybe even a few outtakes.
I sure hope so.
So you'll also want to take a look at our library page, because this show may be about the Amazon adaptation, but the three of us are, as you might have guessed, first and foremost, fans of the books. So we provided links for you to get all the lore, and we do get a few pennies from the purchases you make there. So thank you.
Indeed. One last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, the other dangers of the fire swamp to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com. And if you want a chance to have your actual voice heard, well, you can send us audio of you asking your question by visiting podinbox.com/prancingponypod and record your question for us.
But be sure to send the question to Barliman too. Now, we've been able to rely on Barliman lately, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you when we can. Your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
As always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners, and quite possibly such excellent and admirable co-hosts. But until next time.
Au revoir. Farewell, friends.